Racist boy tore her dress thinking she was a black beggar. Arab millionaire saw everything. Disgusting. Get out of here before I call the police. The shout from 16-year-old Brandon Mitchell echoed through the entrance of Le Bernardin restaurant in Manhattan. He grabbed the sleeve of Aaliyah Carter's dress and pulled with brutal force, tearing the fine fabric. The sound of silk shredding cut through the air like a gunshot. Aaliyah, 28, staggered backwards. The dress was not an old robe, as Brandon had assumed. It was a vintage piece that had belonged to her grandmother, the only physical reminder she had of the woman who had raised her. Filthy beggar. Do you think you can go anywhere just because there's a law now? His mother, Patricia Mitchell, was waiting at the entrance. She heard the commotion but did not turn around. She was used to incidents involving her son. Aaliyah felt tears sting her eyes but didn't let them fall. A resident physician at Columbia Presbyterian, she had just finished an 18-hour shift. Her dress was simple, worn, but clean. Her hair was pulled back in a bun. Her white sneakers were stained with blood from the emergency surgery that had saved a child's life 3 hours earlier. Brandon saw only what he wanted to see. Black woman, simple clothes, tired. Conclusion, she didn't belong there. My son is right, Patricia turned, her voice loud. Security should check people before letting them in. This is a 3-Michelin-star restaurant, not a charity cafeteria. Aaliyah looked at her torn dress. Fabric that her grandmother had sewn by hand in 1960, when she worked as a seamstress in Harlem. The dress she wore to her medical school graduation, last Christmas before her grandmother died. Now destroyed by the hands of a hate-filled teenager. I came to pick up my order. I can pay. Of course you can, Brandon laughed cruelly. You probably stole the money from someone. That's when the man in the impeccable suit got up from the table in the back. Tariq Al-Zerani, 42, CEO of Al-Zerani Investments. Billions in real estate, technology, and healthcare. He recognized Aaliyah immediately. Not as a beggar. As the brilliant doctor who had operated on his daughter 6 months earlier. Noor, 8, had arrived in critical condition after an accident. Dr. Carter had spent 12 hours in surgery reconstructing damaged organs. Noor had survived against all odds. Tariq walked to the entrance. Excuse me. Is there a problem here? Brandon turned, arrogant. I was just getting the beggar out of the way. Beggar? Tariq raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? Look at her. Old, dirty clothes, clearly can't afford to be here. Tariq took a step toward Aaliyah. Dr. Carter. What a coincidence to find you here. The entire room froze. Patricia blinked. Doctor. Yes. Dr. Aaliyah Carter. Pediatric surgeon. One of the best in the country. He turned to Brandon. And you just ripped her dress. Brandon opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Mr. Al-Zerani, the maitre d' rushed over, sweating. We didn't know. My daughter is alive because Dr. Carter worked 12 hours straight. Tariq pointed to Aaliyah's stained sneakers. That's blood. From a surgery she performed today. Saving another life. Patricia tried to regain her composure. We didn't know. She didn't identify herself. She doesn't have to prove her worth to earn basic respect, Tariq cut in, his voice icy. Maitre d', Dr. Carter is my guest. VIP table. Charge it to my account. Patricia grabbed Brandon's arm. Let's go. Not so fast, Tariq blocked the exit. Your son destroyed property. He physically assaulted someone. There are witnesses. It was an accident. It was a racially motivated attack, Tariq corrected. My lawyer will be in touch. Dr. Carter deserves compensation. Patricia turned pale. Sir, we can work this out. Civilization, Tariq repeated ironically. An interesting choice for someone who just allowed her son to attack a woman because of the color of her skin. Brandon finally found his voice. I didn't. I just thought. You didn't think, Aaliyah said. You saw black skin and assumed poverty. You saw fatigue and assumed indignity. Her voice held deep disappointment. I'm 28 years old. I spent 12 years studying to save lives. I work 80 hours a week. She touched her torn dress. And I'm still judged by a teenager who has never worked a day in his life. Heavy silence. Customers watched, some recording. Patricia tried one last card. We'll pay for the dress. How much do you want? It's not about the money, Aaliyah replied. It's about your son learning that the world is not divided between people who belong and people who don't. Tariq waved to security. Escort Ms. Mitchell and her son out. And inform other establishments about the incident. As they were led to the exit, customers began to applaud. Aaliyah didn't feel victorious. She felt profound exhaustion. Dr. Carter, Tariq offered his arm. Allow me to make up for this horrible evening with a dinner worthy of your work. Mr. Al-Zarani, I appreciate it, but... Noor asks about you every week, he interrupted gently. It would be an honor to repay the kindness that saved my daughter. Aaliyah looked at her torn dress, then at the man she had defended when she didn't need to. All right. But only if you tell me how Noor is doing. Tariq smiled for the first time. She's taking dance lessons. Something that would have been impossible 6 months ago. As the maitre d' led them to the best table, Aaliyah had no idea that this evening would change much more than just a meal. Patricia Mitchell would not accept humiliation silently. And Brandon, raised with privilege and anger, had powerful friends. The battle had only just begun. If you're enjoying this story about dignity, courage, and how prejudice can cost more than any fortune, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to find out how a doctor turned a racist attack into a catalyst for change that no one expected. Dinner with Tariq lasted 3 hours. He ordered dishes Aaliyah had never tasted, wine that cost more than her monthly rent. But they talked mainly about Noor. She draws you, Tariq showed a photo on his cell phone. Superhero doctor, she calls you. Aaliyah smiled, her first genuine smile in hours. Can I visit her? She'd love that. Actually, Tariq hesitated. I'm expanding the pediatric wing of the hospital I fund. I need a surgical director. Someone with your skills. Mr. Al-Zarani. Tariq, please. Tariq, I'm still a resident. I don't have the experience to. You have skill, dedication, and after today, you understand the cost of prejudice. He leaned in. The hospital is in the Bronx. A poor community. Children who look like you. Who need someone who understands. Aaliyah processed the offer. It was a dream. But something didn't fit. Why me? There are more experienced surgeons. Because my daughter is alive. And because today I saw who you are when attacked. You didn't react with anger. You maintained your dignity. Tariq paused. And because I know Patricia Mitchell won't stop. Aaliyah frowned. What do you mean? The Mitchell family is powerful. Her husband, Richard, owns a network of private clinics. He has connections on the state medical board. Are you saying they're going to come after me? I'm saying they're going to try to destroy your career before you speak publicly about today. As if on cue, Aaliyah's phone vibrated. A message from the director of the residency program. We need to talk. Urgent. Tomorrow at 8 a.m. Aaliyah showed the screen to Tariq. He nodded gravely. It's already started. Richard probably called administration. Claiming you caused a scene, embarrassed customers. But there are witnesses. Videos. Which also show you in a blood-stained hospital uniform entering a luxury restaurant. Easy to twist the narrative. Tariq picked up a napkin and wrote down a number. My lawyer. Call him before the meeting. Aaliyah looked at the number, then at Tariq. Why are you doing this? You barely know me. I know you well enough. And I owe my daughter's life to you. He stood up. Besides, men like Richard Mitchell thrive when good people stay quiet. I'm tired of staying quiet. That night, Aaliyah couldn't sleep. She checked social media. Videos of the incident already had 50,000 views. Comments were divided. Black doctor humiliated by racist teenager, absurd. She shouldn't be dressed like that in a fine restaurant. She has standards. I bet she provoked him. They always play the victim. Each racist comment was a stab in the heart. But there was support too. The hashtag Justice for Dr. Carter was starting to trend. At 2 a.m., the phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Dr. Carter? A young, nervous female voice. My name is Sophie. I work as a secretary for Richard Mitchell. Aaliyah sat up in bed. How did you get my number? It doesn't matter. I needed to warn you. Mr. Mitchell is furious. He called 5 members of the medical board today. He's claiming that you're unstable, that you attack patients. That's a lie. I know. I saw videos. But he has power. And he's obsessed with destroying you before you sue his family. Why are you telling me this? Sophie took a deep breath. Because 3 years ago, Brandon did the same thing to me. He called me an illegal immigrant, spat on me. The Mitchell family paid for my silence. $10,000 and a confidentiality agreement. Aaliyah gripped the phone tightly. Do you have a copy of the agreement? I do. And I have the names of 4 other people who were attacked by Brandon. They all paid to keep quiet. Sophie, can you send me that? I can. But if Richard finds out I leaked. He won't find out, Aaliyah promised. You're doing the right thing. After the call, Aaliyah called Tariq's lawyer. He answered on the second ring. Dr. Carter. I was expecting your call. How? Tariq told me. And I've already started investigating the Mitchell family. There's a pattern of behavior. Brandon has 5 documented incidents at private schools. Always hushed up with money. I just received information about confidentiality agreements. Other victims. Excellent. That changes everything. The lawyer's voice was satisfied. Richard Mitchell thinks he can buy silence. But he didn't count on a victim who has resources and allies. I want to sue. Not just for the dress. For everything. Racial discrimination, assault, defamation, emotional distress. I'm preparing it. But Dr. Carter, this is going to get ugly. They're going to attack your reputation, your personal life, everything. Let them attack, Aaliyah replied, her voice firm. I've spent my whole life proving my worth. It's time to show that prejudice has a price. The next morning, Aaliyah arrived at Columbia wearing an impeccable suit. Her hair was loose in natural curls. Her makeup was perfect. If they were going to judge her, they would see real power. Principal Chun was nervous. Dr. Carter, we have received a serious complaint about inappropriate behavior. From Richard Mitchell, I imagine. Chun blinked. How did you know? Because his son attacked me yesterday. And now they're trying to spin the narrative. Aaliyah slid a folder across the table. Here are witness statements, videos from multiple angles, and Brandon Mitchell's history. 5 similar incidents, all hushed up. Chin opened the folder, her face growing paler as she read. My God. This is, we didn't know. Now you do. And you need to decide, stand with the truth or bow down to a rich man trying to protect his racist son. Chin closed the folder. Dr. Carter, can you give us 24 hours? I need to take this to the committee. You have 24 hours. After that, this folder goes to the press. Aaliyah left without looking back. In the hallway, she ran into Dr. James, her direct supervisor. I heard what happened, he said quietly. Half the doctors here are on your side. The other half are afraid of Mitchell. And you. I saw you save 5 children this week. One of them was the daughter of a billionaire. The others were from families who can barely pay their bills. You treated them all the same. He squeezed her shoulder. I'm on your side. Later that day, Tariq called. Richard Mitchell just called me. He offered $250,000 if I can convince you not to sue. He what? He underestimated you again. He thinks everyone has a price. What did you say? That my daughter is worth infinitely more than his money. And that if he calls again, I'll sue him too. Aaliyah laughed, the sound coming out like a release. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Tomorrow, his office will send a private investigator. They'll look for anything they can use against you. Let them look, Aaliyah replied. I've spent my life being perfect because I knew any mistake would be used against me. My record is clean. But that night, she received an anonymous email. Photos of her at age 19, at a student protest. Headline: Radical Doctor has history of unrest. Patricia Mitchell wasn't just fighting for money. She was fighting lies. And the battle was just beginning. 2 weeks later, Richard Mitchell called a press conference. "My son has been unfairly defamed by a doctor seeking attention and financial compensation," he declared, Brandon standing beside him with a rehearsed expression. "We offered an apology and generous compensation. They were refused." Reporters shouted questions. Richard raised his hand. "Dr. Carter has a history of radical behavior. She participated in violent protests at the university. I question whether someone like that should be treating children." An edited video showed Aaliyah at age 19, shouting into a megaphone. There was no context that it was a peaceful protest for student housing. That afternoon, Aaliyah received an administrative suspension from Columbia. Until the investigation is complete. She sat in her apartment, her hands shaking. A decade of building a career. Now crumbling. Tarek showed up an hour later. "I saw the press conference. It's war. I'm suspended. My reputation is destroyed." No. Tarek opened his laptop. Emails on the screen. "My team investigated. Richard Mitchell has been using his clinics for insurance fraud for years." He clicked. Text messages between Richard and Brandon appeared. "Dad, the black doctor is suing. I'm already taking care of it. I'll destroy her career. No one challenges our family. What if she has evidence? It doesn't matter. We have money. She has nothing." Aaliyah read, anger rising. "How did you get this?" "Sophie, the secretary who called you. She copied everything before she quit." Tarek smiled. "And there's more. Brandon sent messages to friends on the night of the attack. Another printout. Just ripped a black beggar's dress at Le Bernardin LL. These people need to know their place. It wasn't a lapse in judgment. It was calculated cruelty. I found 6 other victims of Brandon. 3 were minors. All signed confidentiality agreements paid for by Richard. He violated child protection laws." "Exactly." Aaliyah looked at the evidence. It was enough to destroy the Mitchell family. "What do we do?" "You decide." "Both. Civil and criminal proceedings. I want complete justice." The next day, Aaliyah's lawyer called a conference. Same room Richard had used. "Dr. Carter will sue Brandon for assault and discrimination. And Richard for conspiracy, defamation, and obstruction of justice." He projected messages. Journalists frantically took pictures. Richard used corporate resources to destroy the reputation of a respected doctor. He paid for the silence of multiple underage victims. And he committed systematic fraud. Aaliyah entered, wearing a doctor's coat. She had operated that morning as a volunteer despite her suspension. "I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing it for all those who were attacked and silenced with settlements." She looked at the camera, knowing Richard was watching. "You underestimated a black woman again. I come from a grandmother who sewed to feed her family. From a mother who cleaned hospitals to pay for my schooling. I don't give up." A reporter raised his hand. "Aren't you afraid of losing everything?" "I already have. But you know what they can't take away? My hands that save lives. My dignity." Tarek stepped onto the stage. "Al-Zarani Investments has severed ties with Mitchell Enterprises. And we are offering Dr. Carter the position of Pediatric Surgical Director. Salary, $350,000 annually." Aaliyah turned, shocked. He hadn't mentioned that he would announce it publicly. Hours later, Richard called Aaliyah's lawyer, his voice trembling. "How much does she want? $1 million? $2 million? There's no price. The lawsuit is going ahead. She doesn't understand who she's messing with." "No. You don't understand. Dr. Carter isn't fighting alone now." Richard called his contacts, medical advisors, judges, politicians. Each gave the same answer: "We can't get involved." The evidence was devastating. Defending him would be political suicide. Patricia called, crying. "Richard, we have to accept defeat. Brandon could be criminally prosecuted. No. She's a nobody. She's a doctor with a billionaire by her side. And evidence that could put you in jail. Richard collapsed into a chair. His empire was crumbling. A week later, the prosecutor's office announced a criminal investigation into fraud. The medical board opened an investigation into Mitchell clinics. Columbia reinstated Aaliyah with a formal apology. But she refused to return. I'm taking a position in the Bronx, where I can make a real difference. The civil case was tried 3 months later. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. Verdict: $4.5 million in compensation. $10 million in punitive damages. The judge looked at Richard and Brandon. You used privilege as a weapon. You attacked a woman because of the color of her skin and tried to destroy her career. This verdict is a message. Money does not buy the right to dehumanize people. Richard left the courtroom in silence. Patricia filed for divorce. You created a monster. Richard lost his medical license months later. Clinics sold to cover debts. Brandon was tried as an adult. Sentence: community service, probation, mandatory therapy. Sophie was hired by Tarek. Courage deserves reward. 6 other victims received compensation. Confidentiality agreements were annulled. Aaliyah donated half the money to a scholarship fund for black medical students. A year after the restaurant incident, Aaliyah cut the ribbon at the new pediatric surgical center in the Bronx. Child after child waited in line to meet the superhero doctor Noor always talked about. Dr. Carter saved my life, a 10-year-old girl told cameras. And now she's going to save many others. Noor stood next to his father, holding a hand-painted sign, "Thank you for not giving up." Tarek approached her. 42 surgeons applied to work here because of you. They said they wanted to be part of something real. Aaliyah looked around. The hospital wasn't as luxurious as Columbia, but it was full of hope, possibility, purpose. "It's perfect," she whispered. That afternoon, her interview aired on national television. "Dr. Carter, have you forgiven Brandon Mitchell?" Aaliyah thought carefully. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Brandon is 17 now. He's doing community service at a homeless shelter. I hope he learns something. And Richard Mitchell? He lost everything he valued. Power, reputation, family. I feel no joy in that. I feel sadness for a man who chose to protect his son's hatred rather than correct it. Any regrets about suing? None. Silence protects oppressors, not victims. Every woman who signed a confidentiality agreement allowed Brandon to hurt the next one. I broke that cycle. The reporter leaned in. What would you say to others facing discrimination? Aaliyah looked directly into the camera. Document everything. Find allies. And understand that dignity is not given, it is asserted. No one can take away your worth. Only you can give it away. Weeks later, Aaliyah visited her grandmother's grave. She brought a new dress, a perfect replica of the one Brandon had torn. I did it, Grandma. I didn't let them break me. A gentle breeze blew, stirring the leaves. Aaliyah smiled, feeling a familiar presence. Richard Mitchell now lived in a modest apartment. The divorce had taken half of what he had left. 6 months after the trial, the medical board had permanently revoked his license. Criminal investigations continued. He watched news reports about the hospital's opening, seeing Aaliyah smile, surrounded by grateful children. All he had was empty anger and loneliness that money could no longer fill. Brandon was finishing his shift at the shelter when a homeless woman approached him. "You're that boy, aren't you? The one who attacked the doctor." Brandon lowered his head, ashamed. "Yes. She operated on my grandson. For free. She said every child deserves care, no matter how much their parents earn." The woman touched his arm. "You hurt a good person. I hope you spend your life making up for it." She left, leaving Brandon with a weight that no lawyer could remove. Patricia began volunteering with racial justice organizations. "It's too late to fix the past. But I can try to repair the future." Sophie, a former secretary, now worked as Tarek's executive assistant, earning 3 times more than she did at Mitchell. Doing the right thing sometimes costs everything, she said in an interview. But staying silent costs your soul. Brandon's 6 other victims met for the first time. They formed a support group. Aaliyah gave us a voice, one of them said. She showed us that we don't have to accept money and shame. We can demand justice. 2 years after the incident, Brandon graduated from high school. No family members attended. He sent a letter to Aaliyah. She almost threw it away. But she opened it. Dr. Carter, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I was raised to believe that some people are worth more than others. You proved me wrong in the worst possible way. I'm in therapy. Working on myself. One day, maybe I'll be able to look in the mirror without feeling disgust. Thank you for not letting me get away with it. Brandon. Aaliyah folded the letter. She didn't reply. But she kept it. Real change took time. And it started with consequences. Tariq and Aaliyah became close friends. He funded 3 additional community hospitals. She trained dozens of surgeons. At a dinner celebrating the hospital's first anniversary, Tariq raised his glass. You changed my life, he said. You saved my career, Aaliyah replied. No. You saved your career. I was just in the right place. Noor, now 9, raised her glass of juice. Cheers to Dr. Carter. My favorite hero. Everyone laughed. But as Aaliyah looked around, a room full of doctors, activists, saved children, grateful families, she understood something profound. The torn dress was not a tragedy. It was a catalyst. The humiliation was not the end. It was the beginning. And the racist teenager did not destroy her career. He revealed a greater purpose. Tariq raised his glass too. To Aaliyah, who taught us that justice isn't just about punishing wrongdoing. It's about building right. Months later, Aaliyah gave a lecture at Harvard to medical students. You will face prejudice. Patients will doubt you. Colleagues will underestimate you. And some will try to destroy you. The room was completely silent. But remember, competence has no color. Compassion has no price. And dignity does not bow to those with more money. She showed a photo of the torn dress. This belonged to my grandmother. It was destroyed by a teenager who saw me as inferior. But you know what I discovered? They can tear fabric. They cannot tear spirit. Applause echoed. A student raised their hand. How can we move forward without anger? I didn't say I don't feel anger. I said I don't let anger control me. Aaliyah smiled. I use anger as fuel. To operate better. To teach better. To be better. What about revenge? The best revenge isn't destroying those who hurt you. It's thriving in spite of them. It's building something so great that their attempt to diminish you becomes a joke to the universe. Richard Mitchell watched the lecture online in his empty apartment. He saw the woman who tried to destroy him inspiring hundreds. He deleted the video. But he couldn't delete reality. Aaliyah had won. Not with anger. With excellence. Brandon watched it too. And for the first time, he fully understood what he had lost. Not the lawsuit. The opportunity to learn before it cost him everything. Patricia shared the video with the caption, "My biggest regret is not teaching my son this sooner." 3 years after the incident, the original dress was donated to the National Museum of African American History. The plaque read, "Dress torn in a racist attack." Worn by Dr. Aaliyah Carter, who turned hatred into hope. Noor visited the museum on a school trip. She saw the dress and cried. "My superhero doctor," she whispered. The teacher asked, "Do you know her?" "She saved my life. And she taught my dad that people matter more than money." Aaliyah never saw the exhibit. She was too busy saving lives. But she received a photo of Noor next to the dress, holding a paper heart with a message, "Thank you for showing me that heroes are real." She placed the photo on her office desk. Next to it was a frame with her grandmother's quote, "Dignity is not a luxury. It is a right." And every morning before going into surgery, Aaliyah would look at the photo and remember. A racist teenager tried to destroy a beggar. But he accidentally started a movement. Because underestimating the right people doesn't diminish them. It just reveals who really deserve to be at the top. If this story touched you, If it reminded you that dignity is priceless and that justice is worth any fight, subscribe to the channel. Share it to show that prejudice always costs more than any fortune. Comment on a moment when you refused to bow down. Because stories of courage, resilience, and triumph need to be told. In the end, we all deserve respect. And some of us are willing to fight for it.